Olivia, what can the average U.S. citizen do to stop harmful propaganda? Thanks, Owen. It depends on the type of propaganda. I'll tell you this. If you wanted to really dive into it, it would be very, very helpful if you learned about different types of propaganda, what it is and how it operates. And there are actually countermeasures to different types of propaganda. A while back, I did a video about propaganda. It was on my main channel. I don't remember what it was called, but it's all about how propaganda works, talks about different types, and how to counteract them, things like that. Give that a watch and make note of the propaganda techniques that I mentioned in there. I think I mentioned fire hosing. That's one that's not commonly mentioned, but it's one that Donald Trump does, for example, constantly. So look up like 10 different propaganda techniques that are commonly used, and then look up the countermeasures to counter that type of propaganda. This is a subject that's been studied for decades, for a very long time. There's a lot of research in this, in propaganda techniques and how they work, especially during the Cold War era, because it was rampant. Not just by the Soviet Union, by the US too. Ever heard of the Red Scare? It was all propaganda. So take a look at different propaganda techniques and actually look up the recommended countermeasures to counter those forms of propaganda. Sometimes it's things you may not like. For example, fire hosing is a propaganda technique where the propagandist will go to as many outlets as they possibly can, as many newspapers, as many social media networks as possible, anywhere they can get their voice out, and they'll spread as many lies as possible, all in one big stream. Chances are 90% of the people that hear it aren't going to believe it. And 90% of the people who do believe it aren't going to believe all of it. But 10% of 10% are going to believe some of it at the very least, maybe even all of it. That's a wedge in the door. That's the crack in the door that you need, that the propagandist needs. One of the countermeasures to fire hosing is cutting off the stream, preventing them from spreading the lies through as many outlets as possible. For example, Twitter limiting Trump's tweets or putting messages on his tweets saying like this has been fact checked and found to be false or something like that. That is a countermeasure to fire hosing propaganda. But you need to do it on as many outlets as possible, not just Twitter, but Facebook and Instagram and Fox News, CNN, all of them. That's the key.